I would like to show you this new menu that has been added in Starry Landscape Stacker version 1.3.1. This menu is used to control the number of red dots you see when you begin working on your mask for the sky. I've set it now to many dots. You can see there's many more of these red dots than it was with the default setting of medium dots. You can also set to few dots and no dots. Your goal here is to choose a setting that gives you as many dots as possible in the sky without having so many dots here in the foreground that it's difficult to delete them and clean them up. This particular image is quite noisy and quite dark, and it seems that many dots is the best choice here. So we'll start with that, and then we'll just remove these red dots in the foreground, and then we'll say Find Sky. When you first start using version 1.3.1, the default value here will be medium dots, but the program remembers whatever you set it to last, and that becomes your new default. So if you're always using the same value, you might never have to change that after the first time. So here's our initial mask, and you can see that we have a problem. There's a problem here in the cupola, and also there's a building over here on the side that has a problem, and a little bit of bleeding of the mask into the foreground. So we're going to have to clean those things up. So let's go back to adjusting stars. We'll delete the mask, and we'll zoom in here, and it's pretty obvious that this star here is our problem. Sorry, this red dot. It's just too close to the edge there, and the building was being picked up as being part of the sky. So let's zoom back out and then go over here and zoom in again. And similarly, this red dot's probably too close to the edge, and I'd like to make the brush a bit smaller, take out that one and maybe that one, and that might help. Okay, that looks good, so we'll zoom out. So we had to come back in here and delete another 3 or so red dots. Now we'll find the sky again. And that looks pretty good. So what we have to do is just make the brush a bit bigger, clean up a few little bits on the edges that didn't get caught. There's a little bit over here. And there we are, a pretty much perfect mask for our image. This is another example of using this new menu in Starry Landscape Stacker version 1.3.1. This particular image is very bright in the foreground. Many, many red dots here in the wall, and not too many stars in the sky. For this type of image, the best thing seems to be to go for no dots, and then add some red dots. And I'm just going to run a row of red dots here near the horizon. And then I'm going to come back and just make a few passes across the middle here so I don't have to reach in there with a brush and paint that. So now we'll find the sky, and we have a pretty good mask for close up here to the horizon, and I'll just get a big brush and now make it the biggest possible brush and just fill in the sky. Oops, I didn't do a good job there. I missed. Here we go. Went around the flag this time. Okay, so that is a pretty good basic mask for this pretty quickly, but there's one more thing we can check on here, and we have some fine details in here, in particular in the antennae here, where we have some things that are marked as sky that are really part of the ground. Now the quickest way to deal with this is just to be fairly crude and mark them as ground. There's no stars here that you're going to be able to see, so we'll just do a quick painting of ground over top of that, and now we have a pretty much perfect mask for this image. One last example of working with this new menu item in Starry Landscape Stacker version 1.3.1. This is a nice clean image, well exposed, low noise, easy to work with. This is how it comes up with the default value of medium dots. You see some dots here in the trees that we would have to erase in order to get a good mask. If we go to many dots, of course, that would be the wrong thing to do. Now we have lots of dots here we'd have to clean up. But if we go to few dots, magically we don't have any dots here in the trees, so that's great. All we have to do to clean things up here is get rid of some of these reflections, which are easy to clean up, and now we can say fine sky, and we should get a pretty much perfect mask. One more thing I should say about this image, and that is we should come back and do a second pass, probably drawing the mask by hand, and very carefully get all the stars here in the reflection, but none of the sky, and of course none of the trees, and then align just these the reflections here, the stars in the reflection, and save that as a separate image. So we have an image with the stars in the sky aligned, an image with the stars in the foreground, in the reflection here aligned, and then put those two images together in Photoshop or some other image editing tool.